Welcome back to OK Hobby Time. If you ever looked at 3D printing and thought, that seems complicated, this video might just change your mind. Today, we're unboxing a brand new filament printer, putting it through its first print, and turning it into some fully painted tabletop terrain for games of D&D, Warhammer, and more. There are tons of ways to make tabletop terrain, from cereal box kit bashes to full scratch builds that I commonly show on this channel. But filament printing shines when you want pieces that look like they came right off a hobby store shelf without paying hobby store prices. It's also a super approachable entry point into 3D printing. Unlike resin, there are no chemicals to handle, no special ventilation setup, and no complicated safety steps. PLA, the material we'll be printing with, is safe, affordable, and perfect for terrain. That's why filament printing is usually what I recommend to anyone starting out with 3D printing. If you're like me and enjoy creating immersive worlds for your RPGs and tabletop games, filament printing is one of the most cost-effective ways to fill a table with great-looking terrain. It gives you incredible results without needing a huge toolkit or hours of hands-on crafting time. Now, don't get me wrong, I love scratch building. It satisfies an artistic itch in a way nothing else does. 3D printing doesn't replace that side of the hobby for me. It just opens up another path to getting some awesome terrain on the table without the need to always invest a bunch of time. It's a fun hobby that becomes surprisingly cost effective once you get past the initial setup. And as RPG and tabletop players, we're honestly spoiled. We have some amazing things that are always useful to print. A lot of people whose only hobby is 3D printing end up making little trinkets or desk toys just to keep the printer busy. But everything we make has major value. When you compare it to the price of terrain kits in hobby shops, the savings are kinda wild. One spool of PLA can replace hundreds of dollars in terrain. Thanks to Anycubic, who have kindly sent me over this printer, we'll get to take a look at where filament printer technology is these days, and what something like this machine can do for tabletop hobbyists. This is the Kobra S1 combo, Anycubic's fully enclosed Core XY printer with the optional Ace Pro filament feeder. A printer like this comes already assembled. It's just a matter of removing the shipping protection and plugging in all the connections. You'll have to first pull out the Ace Pro if you chose a kit that came with one, more on this unit in a bit, and then remove a few screws that hold everything in place during shipping, which are all marked with red arrows. There's a couple straps and foam pieces that need to be removed, and finally, attach a few wires in the back, including the filament tubes to the printer. Overall, a pretty easy setup. Let's talk about the Ace Pro for a second. It's an optional add-on that can hold up to 4 spools of filament, which means you can load different colors and prints in multicolor. One unit gives you 4 colors, and pairing 2 units bumps that up to 8. When it comes to our hobby, I wouldn't say there's much use in multicolored printing, although I have started to see creators print multicolored for smaller things such as game tokens, which saves time getting these on the table. Otherwise, most of the stuff coming off the printer will be primed and painted anyways. General filament storage and the ability to auto-swap once the spool is complete are nice benefits in addition to the dryer feature. But if you're looking for best value and just want to print terrain to paint, there's a version of this printer without the Ace Pro that will save you a few bucks. Overall, first impressions of the Kobra S1 were very positive. The packaging was well thought out and everything was unboxed in great condition. Startup was simple and automatic. There's an option to run every calibration, including bed leveling, all at once, and when completed, the S1 is ready to print. The big test for me is how easy would it be to send a print from my computer to the printer, and would it actually print with ease? With resin printing, there's a bit of dialing in the settings required for proper exposure. In comparison, I always found that printing with PLA filament to be easy. Even on my last generation's FDM printer, there was no dialing in required. So the expectations are high here. I'm sure I'm similar to everyone watching. I don't want to fiddle around with settings, just print with ease. I had a few things that were waiting to be printed. I'm slowly building up a modular Trench Crusade board, and I had a lot of these files from Diceverse in my backlog. These trench bunkers will make a great addition along with these ruined pieces of scatter terrain. Anycubic uses a slicer called Anycubic Slicer Next, which is a version of Orca Slicer. This was my first time using it and I was really impressed. There were a few features that my previous slicer didn't have, such as multiple plate options within a single file. Most slicers have a beginner and an advanced mode. You can see a bit more under the hood in the advanced section if you're set on tweaking things. But I've always stuck to the basics and I've never run into print issues yet. Again, it comes down to printing with a very forgiving and simple material. The ability to slice and send the file to the printer wirelessly worked and was very convenient. With my old printer, I would still pop into my studio to see if everything was starting off okay, and the filament was flowing properly. However, with the S1, that can be done remotely with a tiny camera built into the printer. The quality is nothing special, but it's enough to see if your print is still going well. The first print was a success. It's always fun leaving your printer to run overnight and wake up to a new model. That feeling of creating something physical from a digital file and a spool of plastic never gets old. I put together my 3D prints with wood glue, which works surprisingly well with PLA. Super glue is a popular choice as well, but I find it to be more expensive, smelly, and there's a slight chance you'll glue your fingers together. So why bother if you don't have to, is my thought. This is a new printer, so I couldn't stop here. I needed to keep printing. I printed a bunch more Trench Crusade terrain, including some scatter pieces and some walls for a modular trench system. And all the prints turned out perfect. The timing of receiving this printer worked out great because I just recently went all in with the Forgotten Town 3 Kickstarter, explained by the creator as a dark fantasy 3D printable scenery set for tabletop wargames and role-playing games. If you watch this channel, then you already know that the ruined medieval town is my favorite theme. The classic tabletop setting made popular by games such as Warhammer is unmatched when it comes to creating a table full of beautiful storytelling terrain. Whether it's scratch built or 3D printed, I'm continuously expanding on this world since I find it so interesting and also very versatile for many tabletop games. The sculpts from Forgotten Town are some of the best I've seen when it comes to this theme, so I'm excited to jump into the world that they've created. I won't receive the files until after the Kickstarter wraps, but the creator has done something really cool and offered a few of their files for free as a sample. Test files are common in the 3D printing world. They're also a great way to get some awesome terrain for free if you're on a budget. I'm really liking their small abandoned ruins. I want to show an example of taking one print file and turning it into multiple pieces of terrain. I'm printing a second ruin and will be altering it so it looks differentiated from the original on the table. Kit bashing and making changes to 3D prints is a fantastic way to make your budget stretch and create a consistent table of terrain. Fantic sent me their F2 Master to try out, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to use it. This cordless rotary tool won a Red Dot Award for design, and after using it, I can confirm that this thing was thoughtfully constructed. From the way the tool and bits are stored, to the operation of the device, it was a pleasure to use. I used the tool to drill away at the terrain piece, but honestly, at this stage a pair of cheap clippers will do the trick to tear something like this apart. Where I really enjoyed the M2 for terrain was the sanding and smoothing stage. I was able to get this piece exactly where I wanted it using the sanding bit. In addition to helping me make changes to 3D printed terrain, I'm also excited for this tool to replace my older hand drill for more traditional hobby drilling tasks. From one free 3D print file, I now have two really cool looking ruins, and this is expanded even more when the additional ruin from the new set was printed. Another reason I wanted to print two of the same files is to compare detail and quality of the new S1 to my older Filament printer. I was already quite impressed with my last generation printer. Layer lines were never an issue and the terrain always came out looking great, but it looks like things have gotten even better. There's a noticeable difference in layer line visibility, and prints just look more seamless. I've also noticed a jump in quality when it comes to overhanging portions such as windows, with less stringing filament throughout the entire piece. Over the span of a few days, I've already printed a bunch of terrain, and what's great about this, it's not even one spool of filament. These pieces cost only a few dollars each to print, which makes this an incredibly cost-effective way of putting terrain on the table. It's time to move on to another one of my favorite parts of terrain building, the painting stage. Let's bring one of these ruins to life and give it a proper paint job. Similar to other plastic models, it's good to start with a primer to make sure the rest of the paint sticks to the model. A hack to put terrain on the table very fast is to use two rattle cans, one for the base coat with an 100% coverage, and then you take a second contrasting color and spray it gently from a high angle to highlight the piece. This rattle can method works so well because the overhead spray naturally hits only the raised surfaces, mimicking real directional light and giving you instant depth. I'm opting for a single primer base coat on this ruined house, starting off with this red brick color. I want to do something a bit more detailed than a two primer paint job. Next, I work on the brick sections, starting with the darkest of grays. I'm purposely leaving some of the red brick color showing through to give this piece some nice contrasting detail. A mid-tone gray is applied next, making sure to leave behind some of the darker gray. I usually build up my colors in a gradient, leaving the darkest colors at the bottom. A lighter gray is used next and applied more sparingly compared to the previous colors, and only applied lightly to the tips and edges of the stonework to bring everything together. Next up is the wood pieces, which get a coat of dark brown to start off with. I paint the planks individually with different hues of brown to give the wooden pieces a more interesting look. This creates a lot of nice separation. It's then all brought together with a light dry brushing of my lightest brown. The soil on the floor is painted with a different brown to match my gaming table. Finally, my favorite part of the painting process, the piece is finished off with a bit of flock mixed with matte Mod Podge. This gives the terrain piece a pop of a really nice contrasting color. I love how this turned out. Printing and painting tabletop terrain checks many of my boxes, and it's become a very fun part of the hobby for me. Knowing myself, I'd still be into 3D printing even if I wasn't involved in the tabletop hobby, so having things to print a major value makes this so much more fun for me. It's still early days with this printer, but so far I've been really enjoying the Kobra S1, and I'm glad to have it as a part of my hobby toolset. If you're also interested in this printer, Anycubic has kindly given me a discount code to offer my viewers and an affiliate link to support the channel. I'll drop the information in the video description. If you're a tabletop gaming hobbyist and have always been on the fence with 3D printers, I can confidently say it's safe to jump in and give it a try. Filament printers are great for beginners and are essentially plug and play compared to their resin printer counterparts, especially when using beginner-friendly materials like PLA. But don't stop here. There's a whole world of filament printing videos and creators out there. Dive in, get inspired, and see how everyone approaches this hobby. It's one of the best parts of being a part of this community. Alright everyone, that wraps up this video. Thanks for watching, as always, and I'll see you in the next one.